Seattle is the worst office market in the country. Their solution is a bookstore.
This is all that's left of the Columbia Tower Club. We're here on the 75th floor of the Columbia Tower, the tallest building in Seattle.
Recent reports show office vacancy rates in downtown Seattle are trending upward. A 2025 CBRE report put it at just higher than 34%, as compared to a 2022 report from CBRE showing vacancy at a little more than 22%. A report from Commercial Cafe shows Seattle has the highest vacancy rate in the Western U.S. market and nearly the country.
It's going to be tragic for our economy and for our businesses especially. The state income tax will give our business nowhere to escape, unfortunately. And so they're going to start most likely moving out of state. We've already seen Starbucks start moving to Tennessee. Microsoft has closed some of their Seattle offices. Amazon has shut down expansion in Washington. So it's very concerning for my business perspective.
Or seem dismissive of wealthy people leaving the area during an onstage appearance at Seattle U last month.
If, the ones that leave, bye.
Sometimes comments that somebody like the mayor makes can have real repercussions in terms of actual, economics for the city, jobs, and the business climate.
One of Seattle's oldest and most distinguished business clubs in the 76th floor of the Columbia Tower. It looks down on all of Seattle. It is the tippy top for business deals being made, for people doing business lunch, that kind of thing, having meetings, having conventions, those functions within the business community. It just shut down. Now the story is, we're just shifting to another portion of Seattle. It's in downtown, which is not great. And they're shifting those club members to another club in the South Lake Union market, which has basically been run by private security via Amazon. It's clean. It's nice. Not like the rest of downtown Seattle. So why is this so significant? Well, if business was going well in the city of Seattle or the state of Washington, clubs like this wouldn't be closing down. They would be expanding. Let's get into it. Here we go. The Columbia Tower Club is located in the Columbia Tower, one of Seattle's tallest buildings in downtown. It's been there for 40 years. They just celebrated their 40th year anniversary. A year later, closed. Like so many other businesses in downtown Seattle. You know what? This doesn't make any sense to be in Washington State. And again, if things were going well, and if we were still in those boom years, you wouldn't have entities like this closing. But this Columbia Tower Club closed. Nobody said hardly anything. They're just like, another club. But I think there's some interesting details here. Members will be eligible to transfer to the Collective Social Club in South Lake Union. So let's take a look. Here is where the Columbia Club is located right now, downtown. Rough. I mean, it's the rough area of downtown. It's been cleaned up. You don't have as many homeless there. But you got a bunch of nut jobs still running around. You got just weirdos. They keep it fairly clean from people living down there, but there's still a lot of drugs and machete chasing around and just wacky nut job stuff. This is all Amazon, and there's private security through here, like there is down over here, but this is much cleaner. I walk routinely from parking garage over in here, Amazon building over in here, to the Space Needle, which is where Climate Pledge Arena is. And I walk to a lot of shows, meet my buddy at his office in South Lake Union at Amazon, and we'd walk to a show at night. You know what I mean? And it was fine. We never had issues because you're going through an area that is heavily guarded by private guards that are armed. Amazon has kept it clean, because they understand you got to keep the streets clean if you want to have people coming to your businesses, coming to your offices. And that's part of the problem downtown. They've got private security there all over the place because it's an absolute you-know-what show. Who wants to be there? Year after celebrating its 40th anniversary, permanently closed its doors on April 30th. And you didn't hear much about this because it's a business club, right? It's a club. You pay a few $100 initiation fee, pay a couple $100 a month in dues. You can go up there and get some overpriced food, have a meeting, do whatever. It's offered a private social and business spot since its opening in 1985. Back in the day, there was a law firm called Diamond, Sylvester, Petrie, Rude, and Cruzen. They were located in the Columbia Center. I may have been dating one of those lawyers' daughters. Who knows? During that time period where the young lady I was dating said, my dad's company has moved to the Columbia Center. It's a massive building, 76 floors. I mean, it's enormous. So they were paying really big rent. And the conversation was the law firm isn't able to hand out any raises because we're taking on this massive chunk of increase in rent to be in the Columbia Center to bring in that really high-end type clientele. And they were a premier law firm. They handled a lot of construction cases and ran a lot of what happened in downtown Seattle. Most of those principals, I believe, are now all deceased. So law firm way back in the day, and that's kind of what I remember is the Columbia Center so expensive that businesses who hung their shingle there had to make cuts in order to kind of get that business in the door before it paid off. But at the top of that building, this building is this club, and I have been to the Columbia Center Club, and it's epic. It's got just absolutely knockout amazing views. When you are looking down on the Smith Tower, which at one time was, I think, the tallest building west of the Mississippi, when you're looking down on that Smith Tower significantly, you're like, wow. And the views back to Bellevue to the east are just, they were famous for having views out of the restrooms that were like, the women's restroom was supposed to, I never went in there because, I'm a dude and dudes don't go in the women's restroom ever. And so it's my understanding, some of the views from the women's restroom were just, let's just stay in the restroom kind of deal, right? But I think what's happened here is you've had enough businesses leave, and we don't have the go-go days of business in downtown Seattle anymore. And this is just one of those kind of side stories that has happened that to me indicates, hey, things are not going all that great. Because if they were, they would have kept this location, because this location is arguably the best location in Seattle to have that kind of entity. But the rent must have been absolutely astronomical, and it stopped making sense. After 41 years, it stopped making sense. Here's something. Seattle Times article from 2002, so 24 years ago, long time ago, reported its membership ranged from 2,200 to 2,500 for a decade. So consistently, you had 2,200 to 2,500 people that were members that support the activities and the overall financial of this club. Later dropping to about 1,795. All right, so we've got a pretty significant decline. The club declined to share its current membership total. Well, if it wasn't a massive drop-off, they wouldn't have declined. They would have said, oh yeah, our numbers are up, but hey, here's the deal. Here's the deal. It's too expensive for us to run in the Columbia Tower because the rent there is just absolutely, top of the line, out of this world, because it's a one-of-a-kind location. But that's not what they said. Yeah, we're not. Those numbers have dropped dramatically, guaranteed. Because how many businesses have left downtown Seattle? And nobody wants to go to this part of downtown Seattle and go to the club. Those days are gone. That is just simply not happening. Now, there's a certain element that does still operate in that area of downtown Seattle. But there's also so many people that are like, I don't want to go there. And I personally don't enjoy going to downtown Seattle other than to just see what kind of, show happens there. Like when you walk around downtown Seattle, it's like walking around downtown Portland. You don't know what you're going to get. And that it's kind of exciting for somebody like me. It's like, what's going to happen? Who's going to walk around that corner? Am I going to stumble into yet another podcast topic? And sometimes you do. Sometimes you're like, wow. Because what was I? I was taking the ferry back from Bainbridge Island a few years ago, and what was the guy, homeless dude, absolutely cracked out of his mind, like First or Second Avenue in downtown Seattle, kind of where we're talking about here, just up from the ferries. He was running around with a golf club chasing people, something like that. Just shenanigans, homeless shenanigans that City of Seattle has decided, we'll just let it go and see what happens. In later years, the club became part of what's known as the City Club, a national portfolio of private city clubs operated under the broader Invited umbrella. We've got these clubs, bunch of different cities, different locations, and they're all in, pretty epic settings. Now, Seattle's has been kind of downgraded to South Lake Union area because it's not in a super tall building, but you know what it is? It's far safer location than downtown Seattle. And the whole business development concept of downtown Seattle has really taken a hit. It's been brutal, because you got high taxes, you got safety issues on your streets, you got a socialist for a mayor. Recent activities by socialists for a mayor. You had a 77-year-old man get absolutely pummeled on 3rd Avenue in downtown Seattle. And the reason they were able to capture who did it was of cameras, city cameras that are installed. And the mayor doesn't want to have these cameras going during the FIFA World Cup because she's afraid that footage is going to be used by ICE. It's absolutely backwards logic. So you've got that incident. Last week, Katie Wilson, mayor of Seattle, was mentioning she didn't think that many millionaires were going to leave. She thought that the millionaire story is wildly overblown. And so she basically said, and to all the millionaires that leave Seattle, bye, and giggled. And the people in the room listening to her all laughed and clapped and, yeah, F those millionaires. Not realizing that when the millionaires all leave, the ones left sitting in the room clapping for Katie Wilson are going to be holding the entire tax burden for the city. Because who else is going to be left? People with money are planning on leaving right now. And the Columbia Club is just one of those indications that the upper end of the Seattle business market is really getting quashed. You don't have a demand for a club like this anymore. Just it's not there. And so here's what the senior vice president of the City Club division of Invited Clubs said. After extensive review, we've decided to consolidate the City Club operations, Seattle City Club operations, into a single location that's arguably better and but doesn't have the views, doesn't have any of that other stuff, but probably a little bit safer, and move forward with the Collective as our primary club in the market, meaning the South Lake Union market, said Vincent Morello, senior vice president of the City Divisional Club, whatever. Club members are being directed to the Collective, 400 Dexter Avenue North, that's South Lake Union. Out of the portfolio is more than 150 properties in the United States and Mexico. 3 are in Washington. We got the Columbia Tower Club, the Collective, and Canterwood Golf and Country Club in Gig Harbor, which is that's a great golf and country club. So they're epic, like standalone clubs in various locations. And the fact that the one in the Columbia Tower just kind of quietly closed down, to me, was super interesting. It's an indication that Seattle is not able to support the kinds of business development that it has in the past. I think those days are over. And moving forward, when you've got a socialist mayor who literally says bye to millionaires, to people who pay all the taxes, not all, but a good portion, to people who bring jobs into the community. And Katie Wilson also, she's out there protesting against buying coffee from Starbucks, which was founded in Seattle. I mean, just all of these narratives go the wrong way. She's out there saying, I'm not buying Starbucks coffee and you shouldn't either, because they couldn't get together a collective bargaining agreement with Starbucks. And then on top of that, you've got things like the payroll tax in the city of Seattle. You've got a minimum wage for Starbucks workers and all kinds of other workers in that industry that is outrageous, and these businesses can no longer support it. So you've got businesses closing down left, right, and center. And what's more important is you don't have businesses coming to Seattle to basically enjoy what Washington State and Seattle has provided for decades and decades, because now we've gone the other way. We've gone towards socialism, which is, kick all the rich people out because they don't want to stay. And then you got a bunch of poor people, and they all look around at each other and go, who the F's going to pay the taxes now? Who's going to pay all the taxes for our generous social programs, right? We heard Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, say, we need to go back down to Florida and grab all those millionaires and billionaires and have them come back up here to pay their fair share of our generous social welfare programs. Now, how about just cutting the generous social welfare programs? And then on top of all this, Washington State's got the millionaire tax. So it's clear that one of the advantages and benefits of starting a business in Washington State, you don't have a state income tax. Well, that's going to be going bye-bye, just like the Columbia Club, right? So you put all these things together, and things are not going the right direction at all. The Columbia Tower was the first of the trio, a recent addition. For 4 decades, Columbia Tower Club has been a place where Seattle leaders connected, collaborated, and built community. And that's what it was. And the fact that it just kind of, we're going to consolidate. We're going to consolidate, and we're going to put our efforts into this other location over here, which is in a newer building. It's near where Amazon is. And Amazon, how many thousands of jobs has Amazon sent to Bellevue? It's another storyline we didn't even really talk about. But if you're going to have to consolidate, you might as well go with that location versus something in downtown. So close downtown, consolidate in South Lake Union, kind of keep the party going. But not too many people, have hit upon this story, because it kind of on the outside of it, it's like, maybe it had a good run. To me, it's a matter of you don't have as many. I mean, the sheer number of vacancies, another storyline. Number of vacancies in Seattle is in commercial is top of the country. We're number one, somewhere 35, 36, 37% vacancy factor in downtown Seattle. So a number of businesses alone probably forced the Columbia Club to close. And then the rent and everything else, things just went the wrong direction for a club like this. It's no longer viable. Shift all those members to a nearby club where rent is cheaper. Arguably, it's safer. You've got the Amazon influence right there. Let's go with that. Don't have the whacked out nut jobs chasing each other around with golf clubs or machetes or whatever. And let's call it good. We'll cut our losses at the Columbia Tower Club and we'll move on. And that's what they've done. Kind of under the radar. Just, club closed. But to me, it's more of a significant indicator of where things have gotten to and where things are headed. Because if there was a big uptick in business development on the horizon in Seattle, you wouldn't have a club like this closing, because it would make sense. It would be, this is the greatest thing ever, which this club was for 4 decades, until it's not in 2026. Wild stuff. And by wild, I mean not exactly good for Seattle. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.